Okay, as I mentioned, Bill Miller has been kind enough to join us this morning and is on the line right now. Again, good morning, Bill.
Hello, Jay.
Bill Miller, we just were recapping as best I can. I've known your name for years. I'm sure that most people who would be listening at this moment would recognize you if they saw you. They certainly should. You've been behind that piano for Frank Sinatra for how many years, Bill?
Oh, my goodness. I guess about 19 years now.
19 years. The man who's always been there, and yet we have never really been cognizant of you, but it has been said about you. A musician called yesterday morning after we tried to get you the first time, got you out of bed, and he said, you know, most people do not realize how important Bill Miller has been to the career of Frank Sinatra, of what he does behind Frank Sinatra. What is it exactly that you have been doing over the years? If you could define it for me in lay terms, Bill.
Well, you know, I can explain that. I don't know how, I don't know about the importance of the whole thing, but I've worked closely with him before, like recording dates and things like that, and work out little details, little things where the piano should be heard, where it should not be heard, and things like that. And let's see, and maybe even choosing a song, you know.
Do you establish mood for him, for example?
That could be.
A reading of a song, or is that?
No, he does. No, that's his department there. But maybe finding a song, occasionally finding a song that lyrically would fit him. But that's relatively rare. That was relatively rare. I think just the fact that I'm capable of I have been capable of playing a ballad that fits his way, his style.
I see.
Know, behind him, and then also on the tempo things where I'm also capable of having been jazz orientated all my life, you know, from the big band.
Yes.
I know how to do that too, you know.
Where did you meet Frank Sinatra, and how did you get started together?
Oh, that was in the latter part of 1951, so that is going on 20 years.
Yes.
I was with a trio. I was part of a trio, a collaborative trio, at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas.
Uh-huh.
And he came through and liked what he heard, and somehow or other, he decided I'd like to work with him, I guess, you know, because I got an offer to do the TV show he had at the time, opposite Milton Berle, and yeah, right.
Yes.
At the time, and so I left Las Vegas and came here. You know, I'd lived here for about 2 years. It was not much. I came from New York.
Yes.
And so I decided, well, why not? You know, see what happens.
And it was a most fortuitous thing that you did that decision. Well, Bill Miller, there, I'm sure, have been many, many highlights in your association with Frank Sinatra, and I would imagine the other night at the Music Center would have to be perhaps one of the highest moments. But over the 20 years that you have worked with him, and I assume that would be everywhere, is that correct? You travel with him everywhere?
Yes, ever since that, except for the first year, let's say, shall we say, in the year of 1952 when he had his troubles.
Mm-hmm, yes.
You know?
Yes.
I didn't do everything he did in the way of one-nighters, things like that, you know. But I guess it was about, it was 1953 when we sort of made an agreement, like, why don't we stick around together, you know.
Mm-hmm, I understand. Could you, going back over 20 years, just give us a couple of highlights in your mind, things that you will always want to remember as far as Frank Sinatra is concerned?
Well, now that's a little difficult.
I would imagine it would be.
well, highlights. Well,
some moment that touched you personally.
Well, the other night was probably the occasion because he is going to retire. Now, whether he's going to retire forever or not seems to be a question that I can't answer because everybody's been asking me and people associated with him.
Yes.
Is he serious about it? Well, yes, he is serious about it. Now, whether he's serious about it for all time, I really don't know. I'm sure he's serious about it right now. I know he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know he wants the time off. How long it will be, that's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. Maybe he doesn't know himself.
But that moment at the Music Center then the other night would be the perhaps the biggest moment that you can recall with Frank Sinatra. Is that correct?
Well, under the circumstances, I would say yes, because when he finished his performance, the second performance, that is, the closing performance, second show, the band applauded, and he even took time out to acknowledge the band applauding and smiled and said something like, "Oh, you know, shut up," or something like that. You know, to the band, who just applauded out of courtesy or whatever you might want to call it.
Yes. Well, now, as you were sitting there playing for Frank Sinatra, and perhaps in your mind...
I happen to be conducting.
Oh, you were conducting. I'm sorry, I wasn't there, so therefore I did not know that. As you were conducting, then, let's put it this way. Naturally, you're concentrating on the music because Sinatra has been known as a professional perfectionist. But what was going through your mind? Anything in relation to that this was going to be the last performance that you knew of by Frank Sinatra, and that your association, for all intents and purposes, would end that night? What was going through your mind personally, may I ask?
Well, yes, that's a good question, and the answer is it probably won't be very impressive. I was still doing a job. I really didn't think anything other than doing a good job.
And from what I've heard about Frank Sinatra, he probably appreciated that more.
I would say so.
Yes. One more question, Bill Miller, if I may, and I think that you're as qualified as anyone to answer the question. Most people want to know, what is Frank Sinatra like? Who is Frank Sinatra, the man that you know?
Well, now that's another tough question.
I know. I'm sorry, but who is he as far as you know?
He is a man who can be as nice and considerate as any person I've ever known, and at the same time, if he's angry about something or he happens to be in a bad mood, just like anybody might be, he can be, shall we say, a pain in the neck occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
But a nice pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. No, and that's honest. I like that. Right. I like that very much, and I'm sure he would appreciate that, too, and that's obviously why you were with him as long as you were. Well, Bill Miller, do you have any final thoughts on this? You naturally will continue your career as a musician. You've been terribly successful. So. I'm sure you will. But will it ever be the same for you?
Will it ever be the same?
By that I mean having the association with Sinatra, who perhaps will be in history, be known as the world's greatest entertainer for the 20th century. This has been quoted by others. This isn't my original statement. But how will it be for you now? Maybe dealing with lesser luminaries, lesser lights. Will it ever be the same? Will you enjoy your music as much?
That remains to be seen. I really don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know, because well, naturally, Frank has been... I was a fan of Frank's long before I even went to work for him.
Yes.
So, ironically, I thought, a year or two before I even went to work for him, or thought I would be working for him, I thought to myself, I would like to work with this man. I think I could compliment him. And that came to be, and now I just don't know. I don't really know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Bill Miller, I thank you very much for your time this morning. To me, it was kind of important that we had the opportunity of talking to you, and I appreciate your giving us this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dick.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
His name is Bill Miller, a name that perhaps you're not too familiar with, but it is a name that will be conjunctive with Frank Sinatra for as long as Frank Sinatra is spoken of, because Bill Miller was pianist and conductor for Sinatra, usually on most of his personal appearances, some of his records, but a man who professionally has been closer to Frank Sinatra than perhaps anybody in the world. He was with him for 20 years.